Hi, it's Kifin Labates here, and today I'm going to have a shot at answering another question from Alexander Meinman that he asked me a couple of weeks ago. And the question, in fact, it's two questions, and the questions involve regulation. And his first question was, to what extent is regulation about protecting people, and to what extent is it about maintaining the status quo? And the second question was, to what extent does regulation inhibit or hinder crypto's potential? So taking the first one, well, regulation is there for a reason. I don't think that regulation in the financial industries was put in place specifically to protect big, well-established old financial institutions from threats from newcomers. However, of course, it does have that impact. It's hard enough when you're running a startup and you have to learn about limited liability company law and your accounting and auditing requirements in order not to fall foul of the law. And you end up in a startup spending what feels like a painful amount of money on that kind of legal requirement. But it's there for a reason. It's to stop shareholders getting defrauded and the CEO from spending company money on a Lamborghini rather than improving the prospects of the company. Now, in the financial industries, the regulation is so much stricter and harder because it involves much more money and much more opportunities for fraud. Those of us who were around in the blockchain and crypto space 10 years or so ago will remember the painful incident of Mt. Gox, where a company that, if it had been a traditional financial company required to meet all the regulatory requirements, would not have been run in the lax and slipshod manner that it was, and as a result a lot of people would still be sitting on significant amounts of Bitcoin rather than those making their way out into the hands of criminals. So regulation would have been a good thing there. As is always the case with laws, they have unforeseen consequences, and by setting the barrier really high for financial companies, it means that it does give the established players an advantage over newcomers. That's just the flip side of the coin. There's not much we can do about it. The question is, can we keep the balance so that people are protected but an unfair advantage is not bestowed on the incumbents? That is really something that I can't speak about too much because I'm not an expert on that particular thing, but it does beg the question. As for the question of regulation inhibiting the possibilities of cryptocurrencies, well, I think when it comes to the interface between the public, ordinary people, and the world of cryptocurrency, regulation is a good thing. And when it comes to innovation in the cryptocurrency space, well, one of the wonderful things about decentralization is that you can anonymously kick off a blockchain with a cryptocurrency and a novel concept, and if you do it well and it gets traction, then it can explode and become incredibly valuable. Bitcoin was not regulated, and it has proved itself to be quite resilient, and in fact is, even with this current setback in the price, which personally I am not paying too much attention to, it just keeps going and keeps building and keeps spawning new ideas. So I don't think that regulation stops innovation, especially in the decentralized world of cryptocurrencies. There's wonderful opportunities to try new things. Once they get traction, and once some people have got burnt, then the regulators step in and say, right, that's enough, kids. Stop playing around, start doing this seriously, and then the public can actually safely get involved. And it has resulted in a shift, I think, in the way that regulators think. You see changes in America where before you, if you wanted to be an investor in something, you had to prove that you had a significant amount of cash so you could shoulder the risk. Now the investment world has opened up, and I think cryptocurrencies are partially responsible for that. I think the winds of change were blowing, and it was realized that if these changes were not carried over into conventional investing and conventional finance, then it could have significant repercussions on how well those spaces were doing. And that's just a gut feeling. I can't pack it up with facts and numbers, but it doesn't seem like a coincidence that these kind of rule changes have happened now that the world has become more aware of what cryptocurrencies and blockchain are all about. Anyway, I've whittled on for too much, I think. I can't give you a solid answer, Alexander, because it's not. I know a bit about regulation, but there's a lot more subtlety to this area than I can communicate in a short video. Anyway, I hope it's spawned some thoughts and that people have got some ideas. And if you do have those ideas, please put them in the comments, because I'd love to have a discussion about this kind of stuff. And I'll see you all in the next video soon. Bye for now.